The following program is paid for by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Absolute Mortgage Company, NMLS number 81395 and Washington CL number 81395 is an equal opportunity housing lender. Tina Mitchell, MLO number 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Absolute Mortgage. Visit AbsoluteLoans.com or call 888-90-HOMES for cost information. You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell. Sponsored by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Now, in the studio, local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome to the Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, October 17th show. I am your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, bringing in expert advice and inside knowledge on today's events in our local economy and how it can save you money. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but I'm here to answer any questions that you have or connect you with the guests that I'll have in studio. Please call the show at 1-855 400-1150. Again, 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And my lineup for studio today, we have a very special guest, Hal Elrod. He's a best-selling author of The Miracle Morning. I brought Hal in on today to talk about how you can change any or literally every area of your life by simply changing the way you wake up in the morning, even if you've never been a morning person before. And actually, he's going to talk about how you can change your life waking up before 8 o'clock in the morning. So he's going to be an amazing guest. Also back in studio again is Cher Klug with Keller Williams Realty in Bellevue. House of Horrors, Tales from the Dark Side of Real Estate. Get a little close to Halloween. Thought that would be a great topic for Cher's topic in real estate. And it can be a little bit of a house of horrors if you don't do the right thing. So I'm excited to have a conversation with Cher today. Great information and great guest in studio as always. For more information on any of the topics discussed, please call the show. 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And we'll start out today with a little money chat.
Money.
And today I thought I'd talk about the opportunity for refinancing. Yes, we still have the historical low interest rates, and yes, eventually they're going to be going up. It's a matter of time. So taking advantage of these low rates, what would be some reasons to refinance? Well, the obvious, to get a lower interest rate. What you want to look at is you want to make sure that it really does make sense for you. Typically, they say it's if you can save 1% or more on the interest rate, it makes sense. But really, you want to look at the numbers. Red or green. Green means go. Red means it doesn't make sense for you and just stop. So how do you do that? A lot of mortgage professionals are going to take your monthly payment versus what you paid in closing cost and give you an amount of time it's going to take to recover those closing costs. That really isn't an accurate way to look at it. What you want to look at is you want to look at your current amortization schedule, where you're at in that, versus starting over on a new amortization schedule. Now, how do you compare apples to apples? Well, if you're lowering your payment, obviously you've got a payment savings. So if your payment savings is $200 a month, just run the new amortization schedule based on making an extra $200 a month savings compared to where you're at in your current amortization schedule and which one pays off first. It's a really easy way to see whether it makes sense for you to refinance. Now, maybe you're refinancing to shorten your term from a 30-year term to a 20-year or 15-year term. And obviously, in that scenario, it's going to be paying off early. That may make sense for you if you can afford those higher mortgage payments. What you do want to look at is maybe not refinancing to a 15-year, but refinancing to a 30-year, because that extra $500, $800, $1,000 a month that you're going to pay going from a 30-year amortization to a 15-year, you could actually be investing that payment savings into another asset class that can earn you a higher return than the cost of interest rate. So you really want to analyze the numbers and make sure you're doing the right thing. Now, when looking at the cost of interest rate, you want to take in also consideration of the tax deduction that you may be receiving if you're not taking a standard deduction, and as long as the government doesn't take away the interest write-off, which is a whole nother show and a whole nother money chat. But consider the interest write-off that you have. It brings the cost of that down. Now, if you're on an adjustable rate mortgage, refinancing over to a 30-year fixed rate mortgage or any fixed rate mortgage to get off of that adjustable rate mortgage, if you're going to be keeping your house for a longer period of time. If you think that you're going to be selling or doing something with that loan within that period of time, why refinance? Because I know if you're on adjustable rate mortgage, the interest rate is lower than where the fixed is right now, at least on a 30-year. Interest only, there may not be too many of my listeners out there with interest only loans, but if you did have an interest, because you're not taking them now, the interest rates are so much higher. But if you took an interest only loan before the financial meltdown, you haven't had enough equity in your home to turn around and refinance. Maybe now that the appreciation in your property has gone up, you'll have time to refinance or be in a position to be able to refinance. I've had a lot of clients that refinance for an interest-only loan to a principal and interest loan, and the payment was actually lower because the interest rates on your principal, your 30-year fixed-rate mortgages are so low right now. Last, I just want to mention consolidation of debt, getting rid of PMI, your mortgage insurance. So there's a lot of reasons that you may look at the opportunity to be able to refinance and just run the numbers and see if it makes sense for you or not. That's the Money Chat today, coming up next on the Money Hour. What if you could wake up and your life was transformed? How would it be different? Would you be happier, healthier, more successful, better shape? Would you have more energy, less stress, more money, better relationships? A lot of things could happen when you transform your life, and that's why I'm so excited to be talking with best-selling author of The Miracle Morning, Hal Elrod, right here at 11:50 a.m. KKNW after this short break.
Does the home buying process frighten you? Then you need an experienced real estate broker and skilled negotiator on your side. Hire Cher Bowman Klug with the Cascade team, whose experience and strategies can help you to avoid a house of horrors. Cher is a seasoned real estate broker and has been licensed for more than 10 years. She holds a certified negotiation expert designation and has assisted many individuals and families just like yours to successfully buy and sell their homes.
Hi there, this is Cher Bowman Klug of the Klug Real Estate Group. I hang my license with the Cascade team, where our motto is simply outrageous service, not outrageous fees. Don't let the real estate process intimidate you. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or a seasoned homeowner making a transition, I'm here to understand your specific real estate needs and excited to help you successfully buy or sell your home. Contact me today at 425-260-1482 or online at www.klugrealestategroup.com. That's 425-260-1482 or klugrealestategroup.com.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, October 17th show. It's a great day to talk money, and that's why I'm here and what the show is all about, how to make money, save money, and build a better quality of life for you and your family. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but you can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And you definitely will want to hold on to the show number today, or you're going to want to hold on to the contact information for my next guest, a very special guest in studio, Hal Elrod. He's the best-selling author of The Miracle Morning. And if you want something that can completely transform and change your life, this guy's going to be able to do it for you. Hal, thank you so much. I know we couldn't have you in studio because you're a busy guy. You're not in our local market here, but just being able to take time to personally talk with me and share about your book to my listeners, I so much greatly appreciate it.
Well, it's mutual, Tina. I thank you for the opportunity, and for everyone that's tuning in, thank you for your time. I hope you get some value today.
I'm sure they will, and especially after I read your bio. Let me give you a little background, all my listeners about Hal. He's the number one best-selling author of what is now being widely regarded as one of the most life-changing books ever written, titled The Miracle Morning, the non-so-obvious secret guarantee to transform your life before 8 a.m. It is also one of the highest-ranked books on Amazon with over 900 five-star reviews. What's even more incredible is how Hal he died at age 20. He was hit head-on by a drunk driver at 70 miles per hour, broke 11 bones, died for 6 minutes, and spent 6 days in a coma, only to wake up to face the news that he may never walk again. Just saying that, Hal, on the phone, talking with you just almost brings me to tears, because I know your story and I know your book, and I'm just so happy for my listeners to be able to talk with you. Not only did Hal walk, he went on to run a 52-mile ultra marathon, became a Hall of Fame fame business achiever, an international keynote speaker, one of the world's top success coaches. He's a hip-hop recording artist, has been featured in the Chicken Soup for Soul book series, writes theentrepreneur.com, and has appeared on radio, my show being one of them, and TV shows across the country. Just that the list goes on and on. One more thing I do want to mention, because I really love listening to Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and just having him talk about you is just amazing. And here's what he said about Hal. Hal is a genius, and his book, The Miracle Morning, has been magical in my life. As my rich dad often said, I can always make another dollar, but I cannot make another day. If you want to maximize every day of your life, you got to read the book. So let's go ahead and start out with that. Hal, again, I know I've thanked you a few times in the last 2 minutes that we've been on the phone here, but thank you again. And let's start out for my listeners. We talked about in the bio, you were found dead at 20, which I want to hear a little bit more about, or I want you to share that with my listeners. But before we get to that, I want to touch on your new #1 best-selling book, The Miracle Morning, since it's being widely recognized as one of the most life-challenging books ever. So can you give us a quick synopsis of The Miracle Morning and why you say that a person's morning routine is the single biggest key to taking their success to the next level?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I would have never believed, having been a night owl really my whole life, for the first 27 years, I guess. I was around 27, 28 when I came up with The Miracle Morning. And it wasn't a book, by the way. Like, I didn't think, I want to write a book. Morning rituals would be a good idea. It was literally 2008 when the U.S. the economy crashed, and part of it being the housing economy, I lost everything, relatively speaking. I lost my house. I bought a brand new house months before I lost it back to the bank. I went from being in the best shape of my life. I was 5.7% body fat before the economy crashed, and 6 months later I was 17% body fat. I went from being debt-free to being in $53,000 of credit card debt. The list goes on and on that way. And it's a very kind of a long story short, but I heard a quote from Jim Rohn, and this is the foundation of The Miracle Morning. It was Jim Rohn's quote and this philosophy that was the catalyst to turning my life around faster than I ever thought possible. And then that's simply, the book is just a result of me going, wow, this can help other people too. I'm going to share it with the world. And that's how it kind of came to be. But the quote from Jim Rohn, Tina, he said, your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development, because success is something you attract by the person you become. And in that moment, I realized, wait a minute, I'm not dedicating time to my personal development every day. Therefore, I'm not becoming the person that I need to be to create the success that I want in my life. And I think it's true for most people. If you were to ask people, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how intense and focused and committed are you to your personal development each day? They'd probably go, half would go, what is that? What do you mean personal development? And the other half would go, I read books occasionally. So I went home with this epiphany. I thought, I'm going to figure out what the world's most successful people do every day for personal development, and I'm going to pick the most effective practice and do it every day. And after an hour online of just kind of researching, Googling, what do the world's most successful people do for personal development? What do CEOs do? What do millionaires do? On and on. I could not narrow it down to less than a list of 6 practices.
Wow. And
these 6 practices, that was the real breakthrough, is I thought, what if I did all of these? None of my research, and Robert Kiyosaki, this is what he said, is he goes, Hal, before the Miracle Morning, every successful person did one of the 6 practices, which are now known as the savers, but no one did all 6. And that was it. So the next morning I did all 6. I woke up, and 2 months later I had more than doubled my income. I went from being in the worst shape of my life to, you had mentioned earlier, deciding to run a 52-mile ultramarathon. And I went from being deeply depressed to just unstoppable. And that's where I shared it with my coaching clients. And then, it's been 5 years since then, and over 100,000 people around the world now do the Miracle Morning almost every day, and experience just profound results from losing weight to starting a business to increasing their income. It's really universally applicable to whatever you want to improve or take to the next level in your life.
Yeah, and you know how you mentioned one quote completely changed your life, and I just think that's so amazing. And now to see that your one thing to do, or the six, but it's all about the one thing in the morning, that it's completely changing lives around the world. It's just amazing. So getting back to your story, at age 20, you said that you hit your first rock bottom when you were hit head on by a drunk driver and found dead at the scene. Can you explain to my listeners what happened after that?
Sure. It's an experience that you never imagine is going to happen to you. It's something that, you see it on the news and you go, oh my gosh, those poor people, that poor family, and then you change the channel. Well, for me, I was 20 years old. I was a year and a half into my sales career. I had broken a lot of the company records, so they always had me giving speeches at the conferences. And one night I gave a speech. And by the way, because of that, I had like a new dream that was born of I want to be a professional keynote speaker someday. This is I love, you can tell by interviewing me, I love to talk, I get excited. And I thought that's what I'm born to do. And so that dream was born. Well, this particular night, I gave a speech for my peers, about 50 sales reps, and I got a standing ovation. And it was the first time I had ever gotten a standing ovation. So for me, it was a really affirming moment, wow, maybe I'm good enough. We all have self-doubt.
Yeah.
And, I give speeches and go, man, that wasn't my best. I messed up that part. And this night I went, wow, if these people would, stand and applaud, maybe I can do this for other people. And so I drove home that night. I had an hour and a half drive on the freeway, and I was on top of the world. I was rocking out in the car, the music's blaring. I'm having a phenomenal time. I was driving a brand new Ford Mustang, which at age 20, that was the dream car within my means, kind of, and I don't remember what happens next. What I'm going to share with you now for just the next minute or two is I only know this from police reports and eyewitnesses and hospital records, but I have no memory past me getting on the freeway and, heading home. And that's really where it's black from there. But around 5 minutes on the freeway later, 5 minutes later, a man I had never met before in a full-size Chevy truck. We were up in Northern California, up near Modesto. He got on the freeway as well, but he was going the wrong way. He was heading against traffic, and I don't remember the headlights coming at me, but at around 11:37 p.m., this full-size Chevy truck traveling 70 miles an hour head-on hit my Ford Mustang, also driving 70 miles an hour for 140 mile an hour head-on collision. And the hood of my car, the engine was smashed into the cab, the windshield shattered, the airbags exploded, and believe it or not, the worst was yet to come as my car spun off the drunk driver sideways, and my driver's side door was a target for the car that was just following a few lengths behind me. They didn't have time to even hit their brakes or swerve, according to the driver. They crashed 70 miles an hour into my driver's side door. And for anybody listening, I always encourage just to get kind of an idea, look over your left shoulder right now and imagine that a car is coming at your car door at 70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And imagine what it would do to you, right? It would be unreal. So that, for me, is essentially what happened. And the entire left side of my car was smashed into the left side of my body to the point where my left side of my body was just devastated. I broke 11 bones instantaneously. And we're talking major, my femur, the biggest bone in the human body, broke in two halves. My pelvis snapped. It smashed into the center console, and it broke 3 separate times. And all the way up, my eye socket was fractured. It's all made of titanium now. My arm is made of titanium. I punctured my lung, ruptured my spleen, and I began to lose a lot of blood. And it took an hour for the rescue crew to cut the roof off of the car. I was pinned inside, and when they finally pulled me out, I had bled to death. I died for 6 minutes. I was in a coma for 6 days. And when I came out of the coma, I had, no recollection of what happened to me, but I just had to face this unimaginable reality that I had 11 broken bones. Doctors said I would probably never walk again. I had permanent brain damage. I had almost no short-term memory. And I'm having to kind of process this whole thing. And to keep a long story slightly longer, or slightly shorter, I maintained, I was so positive, Tina, that the doctors called my parents in a week after I came out of the coma, and they sat them down and they said, we're concerned with Hal. We believe he's in denial. We believe he's delusional because he's always smiling and laughing and joking, and that's not normal. For a 20-year-old young man who's being told he's not going to walk again.
Yeah.
And what the doctors didn't understand, and this is I'll close with this. This is the greatest lesson that I implemented and that I reinforced during that time, and it's that every negative emotion that you or I have ever felt or could ever feel in the future is self-created.
Yes.
It's created by our resistance to our reality. In other words, wishing and wanting that we could change something that we cannot change. Mm-hmm. By the way, that's everything that's ever happened. Like, you can't go back, unless you're Marty McFly with the DeLorean, right? You can't go back in time and change anything. So once something's happened, think about when you get upset, Tina, isn't it? It's usually over something that just happened, right?
Yep.
You just got some news, or you lost a deal, or, you lost a loved one. I mean, it could be serious or it could be traffic, right? Something that's out of our control. And to the degree that we resist our reality is the degree that we create emotional pain for ourselves.
Yes.
So the lesson that I implemented, I learned it in my sales training. It's called the 5-minute rule. And I simply, I told the doctors, I said, look, I live by the 5-minute rule. And that simply says that once something bad happens, I give myself 5 minutes to feel bad about it. But after 5 minutes is up, I realize there's no value in wishing it were different and feeling sad or angry or depressed or just whatever. The only intelligent choice to make is to completely accept everything that I can't change and focus 100% of my energy on what is in my control to move me forward. And that's what I did. So it wasn't that I couldn't accept what happened to me. It was that I had fully accepted it. And once we learn how to do it, it takes practice. I use the can't change it philosophy. Something bad happens, I go, gosh, damn it, I set my timer for 5 minutes, and then after the 5 minutes is up, I take a deep breath, and I say, can't change it. And those three words remind me, if I can't change it, I'm not going to put any negative energy into wishing that I could.
Unbelievable. And, at 20 years old, and the tragedy that you had experienced, to be able to have that attitude is it's magical and it's miracle. So I've got to take us to commercial, but I want to leave you as a listener. Do not turn the dial. Second rock bottom, what could be even worse than actually dying and not being told that you're not going to be able to walk again? Well, that's what you're going to hear when we come back after this short commercial. I'm here with Hal Elrod. We're right here at 1150 AM KKNW.
The 1,200,000 women and men of Rotary have accomplished extraordinary things. They've taught millions of people to read, worked toward world peace, and have nearly eradicated a crippling childhood disease from the face of the planet. But each of those 1,200,000 women and men know they could accomplish so much more if only they were 1,200,001. Find out what an impact one person can make. Learn about Rotary at Rotary.org.
Does the home buying process frighten you? Then you need an experienced real estate broker and skilled negotiator on your side. Hire Cher Bowman Klug with the Cascade team, whose experience and strategies can help you to avoid a house of horrors. Cher is a seasoned real estate broker and has been licensed for more than 10 years. She holds a certified negotiation expert designation and has assisted many individuals and families just like yours to successfully buy and sell their homes.
Hi there, this is Cher Bowman Klug of the Klug Real Estate Group. I hang my license with the Cascade team, where our motto is simply outrageous service, not outrageous fees. Don't let the real estate process intimidate you. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or a seasoned homeowner making a transition, I'm here to understand your specific real estate needs and excited to help you successfully buy or sell your home. Contact me today at 425-260-1482 or online at www.klugrealestategroup.com. That's 425-260-1482 or klugrealestategroup.com.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert Tina Mitchell right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, October 17th show. I'm here to help you build a strong financial blueprint 1 week and one show at a time. And building a strong financial blueprint, you need to have a strong financial personal print. And that's why I'm so excited to have my guest in studio, or not in studio, on the phone, Hal Elrod, best-selling author of The Miracle Morning. And hopefully you heard my conversation with Hal before we went to commercial break. If you did not, you've got to pick up his book. Well, regardless, you've got to pick up his book. It's just an amazing story, and his philosophy and how to really get yourself in a great place. And I want to talk, we talked about before we went to break on your car accident and the tragedy of that, and being told you weren't going to walk again, and all of the miracles that you did personally yourself. And then you talk about in your book, the second rock bottom happened 8 years after your car accident. And that was actually, you said, worse than the car accident, which is just unbelievable. And I'm sure that listeners and people reading your book before they move on further into the book are wondering, what is that? What happened, and how could it have been worse than actually dying for 6 minutes?
Yeah. Like if I do a TV interview or something and I say that, they'll always cut me off and go, "Wait a minute, your second rock bottom was worse than the one you just told us about? Like, you died? What? I don't understand. Did you die again but longer? What happened?" So, well, and here's the thing about the second rock bottom. You know, everything happens for a reason, as they say, but I really believe it's our responsibility to choose the reasons or create the reasons for the adversity in our life.
Totally agree.
That we ask God or we ask other people to tell us, why did this happen? I don't deserve this. We decide how we're going to turn our adversity into an advantage. And in 2008, so paint a quick picture. When 2007, I had hit Hall of Fame with my company, and then I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I started my own business as a coach and was doing really well with that. I had launched my professional keynote speaking business. I was traveling around the country speaking, and my first book, Taking Life Head On, became a #1 bestseller. My publisher stole all of my profits. That's a whole other story for another time. But but I was really living my dreams. I'm living the dream. I bought my first house, brand new house. I bought my dream car, luxury sports car. Like, I met the woman of my dreams. I was at 5.7% body fat, like everything, right? And all of that we talked about. And then when the economy crashed, and that was for me, hard. That was the rock bottom. That was more difficult for me to handle than my car crash, because when the economy crashed, all of that, I thought I was at rock bottom, and then I would lose another client, and then I would try to reset and go, okay, can't change it. Like, I would take my own advice, right? I go, can't change it. I'm gonna reset. And then what ended up happening was I would lose another client, and it was this 6-month downward spiral where it just got worse and worse and worse. And I'm throwing my hands in the air, going, I don't know what to do. I keep trying to reset and go up from here. And, I think more people can relate to that experience, right?
Yes, of course. And so,
because your show is focused on, financial abundance and that sort of thing, I want to tailor it to that. Okay. Because for me, I was at the lowest point in my life. And when I say lowest point, what I mean by that is, obviously physically I wasn't, although I was out of shape, obviously physically I was in worse shape when my bones were broken. But the reason I say it was more difficult is mentally and emotionally, for the first time in my life, I got deeply depressed to the point of considering suicide. Wow. Like, it crossed my mind. I wouldn't have done it because, just for the fact that my mom and dad had been through enough during my car accident. But I didn't. I hated my life, and the feeling. I think what causes depression is when you lose. You don't have a compelling future. Yes. Right.
Because you lose confidence in yourself.
You lose confidence. You lose. You lose hope. Right. Yes. There's hopelessness, and so because I had tried and failed to turn it around so many times, every day during those 6 months, I was losing confidence in myself, and I go on the run. I hear that quote from Jim Rohn. I come home. I create these 6 practices. I don't create them, but I figure out the epiphany is, what if I did all 6? I do all 6 the next morning, and less than 2 months later, that's where the results had happened, and that's when I started calling it my miracle morning, because my life transformed so fast that it felt like a miracle. And when I told it to my coaching clients, I remember Katie Haney, the first coaching client, that I go, I got to tell you this thing I've been doing for the last couple of months. It has totally taken every area of my life to the next level. And obviously, having doubled my income in 2 months, I didn't get a promotion. I didn't get a new job. I simply was gaining knowledge, not to mention clarity and confidence and motivation during that morning ritual.
Yes.
And the knowledge I was gaining, I was applying it. It was business knowledge, and I was able to figure out how to scale my business. So I didn't, nothing, what I did to make money didn't change.
Yes.
It's important to share that.
Yes.
People go, well, you doubled your income, but what, did you start another stream of income? Did you get a promotion? Did you?
No.
I simply doubled the amount of coaching clients I had. Instead of losing clients, I figured out how to ask for referrals.
Yes.
And I followed up on those referrals using an approach that I learned in a book called Book Yourself Solid by Michael Port, right? That's the book I was reading. And, I doubled my clients, right? So it happened quickly. Well, now that I shared it with a coaching client, she started with, almost the same response that a lot of people have, which is, I'm not a morning person.
Yes.
I don't know if I can do this. And we have 75,000 people in our community for the Miracle Morning. And I have surveyed them and asked, how many of you considered yourself a morning person before you read the Miracle Morning? And how many of you, the Miracle Morning was able to empower you, it taught you how to become a morning person, and you were never before, but now you are.
And what were those stats?
72% of the people that have read the Miracle Morning that responded were never morning people before. Most of them said they had tried and failed dozens of times to beat the snooze button, and now they are. So if you're listening to this, there's two things that I want to share with you. One is, if you're already a morning person, this is simply going to turbocharge your morning. It's going to give you you're leveraging the 6 most proven effective personal development practices known to man. And I want to run through these real quick because people are probably going, well, don't leave us hanging,
I was just going to say, give us your lifesavers.
Yeah, so the acronym, thanks to my brilliant wife who gave me the idea.
I love that story.
and get an acronym.
Yeah.
So it's the SAVERS, SAVERS. The S is for silence, starting your day with meditation or prayer. The A is for affirmations. And the way that I teach you in the book to create affirmations is very different than the way that they've been perpetuated by self-help gurus for as long as, to this day they still are, where they teach you to either lie to yourself and just, if you want to be a millionaire, just say it over and over, and you'll eventually believe it. And it doesn't work that way. Maybe you can trick yourself, but for the most part, if you say, I am blank, and the blank is not true, your subconscious goes, no, you're not.
Yes.
So the truth will always prevail. The other way the affirmations are taught is to lie to yourself and say, or I'm sorry, not to lie to yourself. It's this passive, flowery language. For example, a popular money affirmation is this, or some version of this. Money flows to me effortlessly and in abundance. And that's not how money works, right?
Yeah.
You have to put forth effort and add value to the marketplace or to your clients or to your employer. Then money flows to you, right? The more value you add, the more you'll attract money into your life. So the way that I teach you in the book to do affirmations is they're very results-oriented, and here's just a quick synopsis, and I won't go into as much detail on all of the savers, but I want you to have an understanding of how these are taught very differently than they've been taught over the years. I'm a results person. I don't want to feel good while I do something.
Yes.
I want to feel good, but I want to see a change in my behavior that shows up in my results. When I step on the scale, when I check my bank account balance, I want results. So the affirmations in the Miracle Morning, I teach you how to break it down so that they are totally aligned with your goals, what you want, the reasons behind it, why you want that, what specifically you must do to achieve it, and when you will commit to do it.
Yes.
So that every day you read your affirmations, you're not tricking yourself, you're not programming yourself with a fantasy, you're literally programming your conscious mind, subconscious mind, and your habits and behaviors to be in alignment with achieving everything you want in your life. And all the savers follow that model.
Yeah.
The V is for visualization. The E is for exercise. And you mentioned Robert Kiyosaki earlier. When I interviewed, or Robert interviewed me on his podcast, and he said, Hal, the savers are, they've changed my life. He said, I still exercise in the afternoon. When I read exercise in the morning, I thought, I don't want to trade in my afternoon exercise. He said, but I took your advice, and I just do it for a few minutes in the morning. It's enough to get my heart rate up, get the blood flowing, release the endorphins, literally just a couple minutes of jumping jacks in the morning are a game changer. The R is for reading, and I really believe that we are all one book away from learning what we need to know, gaining the knowledge to improve any area of our life.
I totally agree.
And the final S is for scribing, and that's a fancy word for writing or journaling. And I just want to, the last thing I'll wrap this up with is what Robert Kiyosaki said. Don't take my word for it. He said what Hal has done with his acronym SAVERS is taken the best practices developed over centuries of human consciousness development and condensed the best of the best into a daily morning ritual, a ritual that is now part of my day. And he goes on, the last thing is going through SAVERS every morning is like pumping rocket fuel into my mind, body, and spirit before I start my day every day. And that's the thing, is any one of the SAVERS will change your life.
Yes.
When you do all 6, it accelerates you getting to the goals you've had for as long as you've had them, faster than you ever thought possible.
Yes. And Hal, I've got a couple minutes left here with you, but I have to, I want to first, before I'm not going to forget, but tell my listeners how to get and connect with you, how to connect with you.
Yeah, go to halelrod.com. That's the, HALELROD.com, halelrod.com. If you want to get the book, Amazon is typically the best place to get it on, whether that's audiobook or Kindle or paperback. If you're an iBooks user, if you're an Apple user, it is in the iBooks store as well. And then last but not least, I'd love to invite everybody listening to, whether or not you get the book or even before it shows up in the mail, come join the Miracle Morning community on Facebook. It is a Facebook group with 23,000 people in it, and I've never seen as engaged and supportive and vulnerable of a community where people are just, they're so committed to helping each other. It's really, really neat. So join the Miracle Morning community on Facebook, and that's, just take 5 minutes, read a handful of posts, and you'll be like, is this for real? Like, people are really experiencing these kind of results just by changing how they start their day. Even I'm a little bit in awe of it, and I've seen it, time and time again.
Well, I'm gonna leave my guests hanging here because I want them to get your book, and you have to read about the 5-step snooze-proof wake-up strategy. Myself, I always tell people, once you hit that snooze button, you're telling yourself that you're not excited about life, your life, and what the day has ahead of you. And there's always some special little miracles out there for you. You just need to be alert and watching for them. So you've got to get Hal's book, attend his event, which I will be there as well. So maybe I'll get to meet some of my listeners. You can go to themoneyhour.com, listen to the podcast of Hal if you missed this show over the weekend or didn't catch all of it. Hal, thank you again so much for spending time with me and sharing about the Miracle Morning with my listeners. And I just appreciate you so much and your message out there that you're providing for people.
Thank you, Tina. It really, really means a lot to me. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Coming up next in the Money Hour, House of Horrors, Tales from the Dark Side of the Real Estate. Cher Klug with Keller Williams Real Estate here in Bellevue, right here at 1150 a.m. KKNW after this short break.
Does the home buying process frighten you? Then you need an experienced real estate broker and skilled negotiator on your side. Hire Cher Bowman Klug with the Cascade team, whose experience and strategies can help you to avoid a house of horrors. Cher is a seasoned real estate broker and has been licensed for more than 10 years. She holds a certified negotiation expert designation and has assisted many individuals and families just like yours to successfully buy and sell their homes.
Hi there, this is Cher Bowman Klug of the Klug Real Estate Group. I hang my license with the Cascade team, where our motto is simply outrageous service, not outrageous fees. Don't let the real estate process intimidate you. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or a seasoned homeowner making a transition, I'm here to understand your specific real estate needs and excited to help you successfully buy or sell your home. Contact me today at 425-260-1482 or online at www.klugrealestategroup.com. That's 425-260-1482 or klugrealestategroup.com.
The University of Washington Parent-Child Study is looking for parents and their 8 to 11-year-old children to participate in a 3-hour research study examining how children learn to distinguish between what is safe and what is not safe. They're especially interested in how those processes differ in children of parents with and without post-traumatic stress disorder. Parents are compensated with up to $60, and all children are given a UW Child Scientist t-shirt. In addition, all parents receive a thorough psychiatric evaluation. For more information, please call Alyssa at 206-685-9043 or visit online parentchildstudy.com. That's 206-685-9043 or parentchildstudy.com.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW. This is your host, Tina Mitchell, and it is the Saturday, October 17th show. I bring into studio each week the best of the best experts in our local market on everything regarding your money and what's happening in today's economy. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but you can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com to discuss anything regarding money or to talk with the guests that I've had on the show today. And a regular visitor, a guest in my show, is Cher Klug with the Cascade team, and very excited to talk with her. We're going to talk today about some things that can happen out in the real estate market that aren't a lot of fun. So bringing her as an expert on that arena, I'm excited. Cher, thank you so much for coming back in studio. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me back. This is fun.
Yeah, we always have a good time together, don't we?
A
little bit about Cher. Cher is a proud owner of the Klug Real Estate Group and hangs her professional license with the Cascade team. The Cascade team is a full-service real estate brokerage and utilize some of the most advanced technology available. They also provide the best of service, marketing, and savings for a 1% listing commission. Their motto is to provide simply outrageous service without the outrageous fees. Cher has been a licensed real estate broker for more than 10 years and earned her Certified Negotiation Expert CNE designation. Where you're buying and selling a home, her goal is not only to meet your real estate needs, desires, and timelines, but to exceed your expectations throughout the entire process. During her free time, Cher enjoys her hobbies, spending time with her family, her golden doodle poodle puppy. That's a hard one to say. I wanted to say poodle. And her friends. Also remains active in her community through volunteer services with her church, her local pet community, and nonprofit organizations such as Snoqualmie Valley Pet Food Bank and Easter Seals, Washington. You're a busy gal, Sharon. I think that's, shows we were talking with Hal earlier before my chat with you, and it's really about being happy in life, and that's how you're so successful and able to give back to your community like you do. So again, it's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. Thanks, Tina.
And so let's go ahead and start out, Cher. Today you've brought us an interesting topic, House of Horrors, Tales from the Dark Side of Real Estate. And can you buy a home really being so terrifying? I think this kind of came a little bit with the Halloween month that we're in, yes?
It's definitely tied into the Halloween thing.
Yes.
Buying a home can sometimes be terrifying, but it really doesn't have to be. As you know, Tina, buying a home can be a very emotional and stressful experience for most people. And when buyers fall in love with their dream home, they can get so wrapped up in the excitement that they may miss some of the potential flaws that could affect them later. I'm certainly not trying to discourage anyone from buying a home. Otherwise, I'd be out of a job.
Yes.
But it was important, I felt, to share some of the real estate scenarios that either I or my colleagues have experienced in some of our transactions. My hope is that Tales from the Dark Side will provide some helpful tips to your listeners instead.
So I imagine then that's why it's important to hire a real estate broker. Is that correct, Cher?
Oh, definitely, Tina. It's so important to hire a seasoned real estate broker to not only guide you through some of the home buying process, but also to provide you some recommendations on what items should be inspected or investigated further. Since brokers are not emotionally attached to the outcome of the purchase, we can often be the voice of reason.
So it sounds like the inspection process is a critical part of the home buying process. And what are some scary things that could happen if a buyer chooses to forgo the home inspection?
Tina, we could probably dedicate an entire show to some of the scary things that can be discovered or overlooked. But I'll just share a few. Typically roof, electrical, and plumbing are items that are inspected in a home inspection. But some of the other areas that should be considered also include like the crawl space or attic, exterior siding, a private well if it's not attached to the public water system, water pressure, and even pest inspections. But I'll just share a couple of my horror stories with respect to these areas. The crawl space. Sometimes a crawl space can get flooded from a heavy rainstorm. And if the sellers weren't aware of the flooding, it can create standing water, which could also lead to mold. And if that's not scary enough, when you factor in the thousands of dollars in mold remediation, it can get downright frightening. So tied into the crawl space theme, one of my colleagues actually had the unfortunate opportunity to follow the home inspector into the crawl space personally to view the standing water that had been discovered. Of course, it's dark in the crawl space, and there's the vapor barrier that goes across the dirt. It lays across the dirt typically, but that vapor barrier had risen up with the flooding and was floating on top of the water. So when he went down to touch the barrier, he actually fell forward into about a foot of disgusting mud and water, soaking his entire front side. So
oh my God.
The life of a realtor is not always so glamorous. And then there's, private wells. In some of the more rural areas of our state, you can find private drinking wells on the property instead of being tied to the public water system. And so it's important to have those inspected too. You'd have it tested by a professional for, water quality, ensure that the well pump is operating properly, and more importantly, to ensure that there's actually still water available. I had some clients walk away from a deal because the water quality was poor or it was filled with contaminants. And another real estate broker had a client that didn't perform a well inspection, and 2 days after closing, the well actually went dry. So it's such a horrible experience for these poor buyers that they had to endure that, but it could have been avoided.
Yes, and that's really the topic of our conversation today is how to avoid these things happening to you. Now, I've heard that lead-based paint could be a concern in homes built before 1978. What are some of the other items that a buyer should investigate before buying an older home?
Yes, that's correct. The lead-based paint is often investigated in older homes, but there are so many other areas, too, that might be of concern in older properties. They might include electrical items, underground oil tanks, and fireplaces or chimneys. With regards to the electrical items, sometimes the home's electrical panel or breaker box may not be up to code, and the outlets may not be grounded, or the old wiring throughout the home may still exist. And I understand these could eventually become fire hazards and safety issues. I was personally purchasing a home once. I believe it was originally built in the 1960s. And the seller had done such a phenomenal job of aesthetically bringing it into the 21st century. It was just beautiful. Fortunately, I had it inspected and found that none of the outlets were grounded, and the old wiring was still in place. And at the time, the inspector estimated that it would cost me about $10,000 to install new wiring and have the outlets grounded. So I basically walked from that deal. And then there's underground oil tanks. I had a client who was selling her 1942 home, and when she originally purchased it, she purchased it as a fixer and had never bothered to have the home inspection done. She didn't even know she had an old, unused oil tank buried in her backyard until the buyer that was buying her home had the inspector discover it. And so I'm not sure if you knew this, Tina, but these old oil tanks can actually rust and possibly leak, causing environmental health and safety issues. But
I had no idea.
Yeah. So fortunately, her tank had never leaked. However, she did have to shell out some extra money to have the oil tank properly decommissioned. And when you decommission it, you have to empty all the sludge and either cap it or fill it with foam or have it completely removed from the ground. And all of those are expensive options.
Sure.
And then there's chimneys. Chimneys could be blocked with debris, or the bricks may be crumbling with age and no longer secure. Of course, these are items of concern, but there was one home buyer in California that discovered that the chimney flue was not blocked by debris, but rather packed full of scorpions.
Oh, my gosh.
I would be totally terrified if that was discovered in my home. I don't think that I could sleep after that.
Thank goodness we don't have scorpions here in Seattle.
Exactly. But you don't know, until you investigate what's in there.
Oh, my gosh. And so new construction, I'm sure that if a listener hears about new construction would think, what could scary, come about new construction? And, do they really even need to get it inspected?
Believe it or not, Tina, actually, it is important to have new construction homes inspected as well. For starters, there's several simple items that could be missed during the construction, like is the garbage disposal in place? Is the towel racks and toilet paper holders and shower curtain rods still installed? What about the automatic garage door opener or the window treatments that the builder promised you? And another area of importance is proper insulation. Oftentimes, these can be found missing in the attic or the crawl spaces. So imagine how shocked the buyer would be when he opens his first heating bill after a winter in his new uninsulated home. That could be terrifying.
Yes.
And a more expensive example of an inspection oversight for a new home was after the owners discovered their master bedroom and bath had sort of a musty odor, and mildew was growing on the bathroom walls, and it was only 4 months old. And they noticed that it had started about 2 weeks after moving in, and they were sick with asthma and thought perhaps they had the flu. But when they had an inspector come in, they actually discovered the exhaust fan had not been installed. The tub was not fully connected, so there was standing water under the tub. And the mold growth that they found on the wallpaper was filled with toxic pores. So normally this repair would be covered under the builder's warranty. However, the builder had actually gone bankrupt. So the new homeowners had to spend more than $11,000 in repairs for not only that plus cleaning and medical bills.
Yeah, so you never know what's going to happen to the builder. It's important to make sure that you know what you're getting into and have everything protected. So I want to get into neighborhood review. There's contingencies within the contract, purchase contract. So why is it important, and what should a buyer investigate regarding their neighborhood?
Oh, it's very important. And Tina, when you're buying a house, you're not just buying a home, you're buying a community too. So I always encourage my clients to do a neighborhood review. In this market, however, we typically keep it short to like 3 to 5 days in line with the home inspection timeline. But there are several things you should consider. Your neighbors, for one. It's always good to knock on a couple of doors and ask, what they've liked or disliked about the community. Maybe find out why the current homeowners are selling. And it also gives you a chance to interview your potentially future neighbors and see if you might get along. Future development, if your house is maybe backs to a green belt, and I would find out who owns the property and see if they have plans for future development, because you may ultimately lose your privacy or the view that you paid a premium for. So that's something certainly worth investigating. And then, of course, there's crime. Safety is obviously a concern for most people, so I always encourage my clients to investigate the crime rates in the community. They can Google the property address to see if any crimes appear on the internet, call the local police department and see if there's been any incidents, et cetera. There's also a website called crimereports.com, and you can see what types of crimes had recently been committed in your area. I actually had a client once who was purchasing an older home that had been on the market for some time. It was priced really well and had all the features he was looking for. But the day of the inspection, he discovered some interesting facts on his own through the internet. It turns out the owner of the house had actually been shot dead on the front porch during an altercation with local authorities. He eventually terminated the contract due to some issues with the house, not necessarily the death. But it still gave me the heebie-jeebies to be in that home during the inspection. Yeah,
neighborhood review is really important. You want to make sure where you're at is a safe. And that would be a terrible thing to find out if it's something that would, put you in a bad space in your own home. So the House of Horror stories have made it very clear that a home inspection and neighborhood review are key. What are some of the other items that a buyer should investigate before buying a home share?
There's a couple HOA rules and future assessments. If you're buying into a community that has homeowners associations, then definitely take some time to review the financial statements, the meeting minutes, and covenants, conditions, and restrictions, are also known as the CC&Rs. There was a couple that was buying a condo, and they didn't read the minutes that noted there was going to be an $850,000 construction defect that was going to be repaired. It cost each unit $7,500 in special assessments, but because they hadn't read through the minutes, they didn't learn about this assessment until after they had closed and attended their first board meeting. So it can be pretty scary if you don't, set aside some time to review these items. And then, of course, there's unpermitted home conversions or renovations. Sometimes a homeowner will decide to convert a garage to a family room or an extra bedroom, but they can do so without having it legally permitted. And if you end up buying that home, sometimes the city can come along and require that you tear it down and have it completely rebuilt at your cost because it wasn't legally permitted the first time around.
Wow, and that would be a complete nightmare. And I've never even thought about that. I just look from the financing side that, you know, if the appraiser mentions that there's no permit and, you know, there can be issues that come up there and being able to have that house financeable when you're actually going to sell the home. So
exactly.
Your story is a lot bigger nightmare story. So can you please give our listeners a quick summary of some of the items they should inspect or investigate before buying a home?
You know, we've really covered quite a few items on our Tales from the Dark Side of Real Estate today, but in a nutshell, I'd say, regardless of the age of the home, always have it inspected by a licensed professional. And don't forget about the neighborhood review, too. You know, to avoid buying a house of horrors, I would simply encourage your listeners to hire a seasoned real estate broker to guide them through the home buying process and provide them some resources so that the buyers can investigate things further.
You know, Shara, thank you so much for putting a spin on my time with you today in the spirit of Halloween. But it's a serious conversation and a lot of great information that you provided for my listeners. You just really need to be prepared. Make sure you're working with the right people. Make sure you know exactly what you need to do to protect yourself and protect that home moving forward that you're ultimately going to be raising your family in. So, Shara, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks so much, Tina.
And this is your host and mortgage expert signing off for the day. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for being here with me. I'll be here same time, same place on Saturday next weekend, right here at 11:50 a.m. at KKNW.
The preceding program is paid for by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Absolute Mortgage Company, NMLS number 81395 and Washington CL number 81395 is an equal opportunity housing lender. Tina Mitchell, MLO number 1454420, is a licensed loan originator with Absolute Mortgage. Visit absoluteloans.com or call 888-90-HOMES for cost information.